I like Filli Vanilli. It's a good episode, but I'm here to analyze it, not tell you that it's good. So in order to properly articulate my thoughts on this episode, I have to go back in time to my very introduction to Bronydom. The very first time I watched Season 1, Winter Wrap-Up was my least favorite episode. I know, I was wrong, leave me alone. Anyway, the reason I initially disliked Winter Wrap-Up so much was because up until that point, all the musical numbers in the show seemed completely diegetic.
I even wrote a song about her!
And beautifully self-aware, too.
Tell me she's not. The darkness and the shadows, they would always make me frown.
But then Winter Wrap-Up comes along and has a song in it that doesn't seem spontaneous or grounded in reality in the slightest. I mean, the reality of a world populated by magical pastel-colored ponies, but still. It was just a big showstopper that felt out of place and frightening. You see, now there was a dissonance between the musical numbers that were happening in the context of the show and the ones that weren't. I eventually got over it, like 3 episodes later, but there's still a divide between the songs that are diegetic, you know, the ones the characters are actually singing in the context of the show, and the non-diegetic ones that exist solely for the benefit of the audience. In the interest of better understanding the greatest failure of Filli Vanilli, we need to break down that divide, to find out who is actually singing and which songs are imaginary. The majority of the songs in MLP happen in universe, with characters actually singing them.
Hey, remember the chant?
You can tell because the characters reference the fact that the song was sung.
That was the worst performance we've ever seen.
Or they react to it in some way.
Who does that? Oh, Manhattan.
This is the case with the very first song in the show, and it continues well into Season 4. There are non-diegetic songs that act as montage-style time dilation.
And with every shot, show a little improvement to show it all would take too long.
These songs may be happening, but not in a literal sense.
Whoa!
They're often embellished by the animation and never directly referenced in the show. They pretty much serve the purpose of telling the audience what's going on in a timely fashion.
That's called a montage.
And then there are songs which are just, well, songs. They're there to be listened to, and don't have any impact on the show's narrative. Let the Rainbow Remind You is one of those. It was a good song, but it had no earthly reason to be there in the context of that episode's narrative. And as far as I can tell, songs like that only happen like 2 or 3 times throughout the series. And now this should go without saying, but whichever category the songs fall into doesn't have any bearing on the quality of the song. Okay? Good. Now that we got that out of the way, let's look at the songs that Fluttershy sang. Evil Enchantress. Yes, she does have to be coaxed into it, but she doesn't seem nervous about singing in front of her friends. The Lullaby from Stairmaster.
How about I sing you a lullaby? Yeah!
She's more than willing to sing in front of the CMC. Her song from the flashback in Cutie Mark Chronicles.
Yes, I love everything!
Now, she was all alone here, so we can't really say this is evidence that she doesn't have stage fright, but she does say this at the end of the very same episode.
Hey, how about a song?
May the best pet win. Fluttershy drags Rainbow Dash away to sing against her will.
It can fly and it's not a squirrel. Should we sing about it again?
The song from Hearthwarming Eve. Now, she does admit that she has stage fright here,
I can't go on stage. I don't want every pony looking at me.
which is understandable because up to this point we've only seen her sing in front of her friends in the CMC. Well, that's not entirely true because she had a verse in at the gala, but I don't think that really happened.
Young lady, this is not that kind of party.
So it doesn't count. But either way, Fluttershy toughs it out and sings in front of the crowd anyway. Stop the bats! Fluttershy sings her counter-argument to Applejack's anti-bat tirade.
I'm sorry, Fluttershy, but I believe Applejack has made the better argument.
So at the beginning of Filli Vanilli, when she seems utterly terrified of her friends hearing her sing, that's completely ridiculous. I mean, we even see her sing in front of her friends in an episode that Amy Keating Rogers wrote. But she's never been very reliable when it comes to continuity.
Thank you kindly, Twilight, for helping me out. I bet Big Macintosh I could get all these golden delicious in the barn by lunchtime. I'm gonna get every last apple out of those trees this apple buck season all by myself.
So Fluttershy has stage fright in this episode. I mean, that's not too much of a stretch, even considering Hearthwarming Eve. I mean, when the monarch of the land tells you to do something, you do it, lest you get banished and thrown in a dungeon in the place where you get banished to. So if you're willing to look past Fluttershy's trepidation for singing in front of her friends, Filli Vanilli turns out to be a really good episode. I mean, despite nitpicks.
Wouldn't Fluttershy sound like this if she was singing underwater in a diving bell?
Well, what's so good about this episode? Well, I'm not gonna lie, it's mostly the ending. If there's one thing that this series as a whole seems to struggle with, it's ending their episodes. I mean, so many great episodes just sort of peter out at the end. Sometimes because they need a clean-cut moral, even if that moral doesn't really make sense in the context of the episode. And sometimes the endings suck just because of, I don't know, spite. This is one of those cases where the moral at the end meshed perfectly with the themes of the show. Baby steps.
And that chap Filli was living her dream in the shadows because she couldn't bring herself to come into the spotlight?
Yup.
Well, for Corn's sake!
Yeah, it's a show about characters. It's a show about watching characters in tough situations and seeing them grow because of it. That's why we love this show. Or at least I think that's why we love this show. So does anyone else think that speaking in rhyme is the effect that Poison Joke has on Sakura? I mean, if it has the same effect on Fluttershy every time, why wouldn't it work the same for Sakura? I think that's kind of cool. Like, she could speak normally if she wanted to mix up the antidote, but just doesn't bother because she doesn't get company all that often. Pinkie Pie was awesome in this episode. And yes, that was the sound of the Brony fandom's jaw collectively dropping because someone would have the audacity to suggest that Pinkie Pie wasn't out of character or being flanderized in this episode. And to that I would say, shut up. Pinkie Pie's behavior in this episode is perhaps the most compelling case for Fluttershy's gradual character growth since, well, putting your hoof down.
Now, pay Iron Will what you owe Iron Will!
No. You will join the group making the Ponytones Quartet, the Ponytones Quintet. No.
Pinkie Pie would never have treated Season 1 Fluttershy like this.
No. We can't prank Fluttershy. I mean, she's so sensitive. It'll hurt her feelings.
Slowly, over the course of 4 seasons, Fluttershy has grown more assertive and strong-willed. She's been out of her comfort zone before and survived, and every time her comfort zone has grown a little. And this is finally anti-Pinkie Pie saying, you're a big girl now and you can take care of yourself. Sure, she went a little too far, but when has Pinkie Pie ever been able to measure herself?
This calls for extreme measures. Pinkie Pie style. You gotta care. It's the right thing to do. You gotta share. You gonna eat that? Everybody run! It was a moment in time that will never exist again. Try everything you can to make Cranky smile and be your friend. Check! No, because I know who did it.
Pinkie not knowing where to stop is nothing new. This is a normal Pinkie Pie behavior. Not to mention that it's funny.
Don't be ridiculous!
Aw, but I'm so good at it.
I mean, Pinkie Pie is supposed to be comic relief, and the tragically unstable one. And this is the dichotomy that makes for best pony. And same with Pinkie Pie being uncannily good at things.
Lost his voice and the title. Hey, you guys! Did you know I can totally play the organ? Because I didn't. Check it out!
Hell, I even liked Angel Bunny in this episode. Look at him. He's like, hey, if you're not even gonna try, don't look at me for comfort. And another contributing factor to my personal enjoyment of the episode is that it's the cutest damn episode in Season 4. I guess when they make an episode about Fluttershy, it's hard for it not to end up extremely cute. But just look at the way Fluttershy moves when she sings. It's so adorable. And it's not just Fluttershy. This little filly with her thick glasses and tiara and darting around all over the place. And when the spa ponies do the thing. And Bon Bon and the seal with the ball. Even Pinkie Pie's exorcist wall crawl is adorable. I don't know if any of that actually matters, but I'm just a sucker for things that are cute.